What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in, guys. Happy Monday. I'm Rick Tambro with the Sports Forum. This is The Buzz, talking about everything that happened over the NFL draft weekend, obviously from the first round all the way to the final pick there in the seventh round. Today, we are talking quarterbacks. By the way, if you guys are tuning in on Roku and Fire TV, we appreciate you. We are on the 12-ounce Sports Network. Make sure to go ahead and download that if you guys have not yet, so you never miss any shows on there. Instagram and Twitter at Sports Forum CO and YouTube at The Sports Forum. Click that subscribe button. We appreciate you. But all that said, guys, I'm flying solo today, just talking about what happened with the quarterbacks. We're going to talk about all 13 guys, some of them very, very briefly, and some of them a little bit deeper into overall thoughts, who got the best deal, who should not have gotten drafted, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that said, number one quarterback off the board and also the number one pick, pretty suiting with the number one there on his jersey, Mr. Cam Ward out of the U. Look, guys, Cam Ward to the Titans. I'm not the biggest fan of Cam Ward. I do think he's a good quarterback. I do think he has the intangibles when it comes to what you're looking for in an NFL quarterback. But for me personally, I don't think that Cam Ward is the next greatest thing to ever happen. And when you look at the rest of the quarterbacks drafted, you see guys like Shedeur Sanders falling to the fifth round. You got guys like Jackson Dart, who did get drafted, but it was in the 25s and up in the first round. The real only quarterback that seemed to be the guy is Cam Ward, and I just don't think that he's that good. Do I believe over time, 3-4 years down the road, will he be a good quarterback? I do. I think he'll develop a little bit more like Lamar, kind of out the gate, doesn't really get anything done, doesn't win the big game, blah, 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 but is always dangerous. And then maybe, 3-4 years in, he starts making a real difference for his team there. But overall, I'm going to give the Titans a solid 9 out of 10, I guess, with the pick there. But for me personally, it wasn't anything special. And honestly, they should have done a lot more negotiating and leverage there with the first pick instead, in my opinion, of sitting there and saying, we're taking Cam, we're taking Cam, we're taking Cam. Maybe somebody like, I don't know, the Jags would have traded up to the number one spot if that would have been the threat. Think about what they could have gotten for that as well. So for me personally, good for them. They got the guy they wanted, but I'm not the biggest Cam Ward guy. But I would love to hear what you guys think about him. Is he the next great thing? 3 years from now, will he be a top 6 quarterback in the NFL? I don't think so, but I do believe that he'll have a decent NFL career. Then we move on through there to pick number 25. We saw the New York Giants trade back in to the first round after taking Abdul Carter, and they come back in at 25 to grab Ole Miss's Jackson Dart. Now, the big question was, is it going to be Dart? Is it going to be Sanders? Who's going to be the second quarterback off the board? Well, we got our answer. It was Jackson Dart, the second quarterback there off the board. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I first saw that little dinger come in there, I kind of thought it was going to be Shedeur Sanders. They talked to Shedeur so much there leading up to the draft. He was out in New York for the Heisman stuff all with Travis Hunter. They had him out then. He was throwing with the receivers a little bit, having some fun. The Giants also came out to every single Buffs home game and watched Shedeur Sanders. So they sure made it seem like they were maybe going to take him, and they just didn't do it. So I find that to be a little bit interesting. They go Jackson Dart. If you haven't seen the great clip on our TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, I would say check out our TikTok if you guys do not follow us on there already. We never promote our TikTok, but we do a lot of stuff on there. So do us a favor. You can find us on TikTok at Sports Forum CO, as well as Instagram and Twitter. On there, we got that clip of John Gruden asking Jackson Dart for his snap count. Let me see that snap count. What you got for me? And, instead of the Patrick Mahomes, the wide 80, hey, blank, go. Or who is it? Dak Prescott. Here we go. And then something. He just went. And Gruden's like, wait a minute. You just clap? And he said, yep. He said, for 3 years you clap? He said, mm-hmm. And he said, do you have any dummy claps? Do you do anything else, like a different count when you're trying to get the defense to jump offside? He goes, yeah, we call it purple. All right, let me see that. Gruden said, no shit. I think I could have done that. Yeah, I have never called Jackson Dart the most intelligent of the quarterbacks available. Specifically, I'm talking obviously football intelligence. I think the kid is good. I don't think he's great. I don't think he was worth what they gave up, honestly, in my opinion, to come back in and get him. But obviously, they need a quarterback. They get rid of the whole Daniel Jones situation. 1 year after letting go of Saquon Barkley, they decide, you know what? We need another quarterback. We don't really want to rock with Russell Wilson for the next foreseeable future. Let's go ahead and grab Jackson Dart. I do have my concerns with Dart. If you watched him last year at Ole Miss, he did have quite a few turnover problems. It was his number one issue over there last year. And I don't know if coming to the NFL, playing for the New York Giants, is that going to just poof, disappear? I don't really think so, but he's coming in behind a guy in Russell Wilson. As much shit as Russell Wilson gets, the dude is still a great quarterback overall in his career, and he's still a decent quarterback here today. And Dable did come out and announce that Russell Wilson, at least for now, especially moving into camp and everything like that over the summer, Russell Wilson will be the QB1. So they're not saying that Jackson Dart's going to come in. We expect this guy to be ready. And I think that's the right move because, in my opinion, Jackson Dart is not ready to be an NFL starting quarterback. Some people have said, but he could be on, he could be the next Bo Nix. I don't know about that because the difference with that is if you watch Bo Nix at Oregon, Bo Nix didn't have these turnover problems. I always thought that Bo Nix saw the field a little bit better. In my opinion, his arm is still slept on to this day. I know Jackson Dart has a good arm, and when he throws the ball on target, it is relatively very nice looking. I just don't think overall when it comes to reading the defenses, not throwing into bad coverage in the NFL, I don't think his football IQ is there yet. So maybe he learns behind Russell Wilson for at least 8-9 games. Maybe at that point, if they've only won 3 of their first 9, then maybe Jackson Dart gets a look at it, but I think this guy will personally not be ready until year number 2, which once again makes me kind of question what they gave up to go get Jackson Dart because in hindsight, they probably could have got Shedeur or even Jackson Dart there in the second round if they really wanted to go quarterback, or hey, who knows, Tyler Shuck, whatever, any other quarterback, and not giving up anything extra. But I know Giants fans are pretty happy about it. They got 2 dogs in the first round. Hey, good for them. Then moving on over to pick number 3, and in my opinion, the biggest shock of the first 3. As much as I was surprised by the whole what in the world just happened? Why did they take Dart over Shedeur? It was 100% Louisville's Tyler Shuck. This guy to me is not an NFL quarterback. And I'm not even saying he ain't a first round or a second round quarterback. I'm saying, in my opinion, this guy is not an NFL starting quarterback. Not this year, not next year, and in my opinion, not the year after that. I'm not convinced by this guy right here. Now, when you look at the quarterbacks, I'm not saying he won't be a starting quarterback. I'm saying he's not starting quarterback caliber. There's a difference. If you got no other option, if Derek Carr's hurt and your only other option is Spencer Rattler, well, maybe he's an NFL starting quarterback. But is he a top 32 starting quarterback in the league? In my opinion, I don't think that he is. You look at this kid, this pick surprises me. They pick him number 40 overall there in the second round. I don't get it. I didn't get it when they did it. I've had a couple days to process the pick. I've watched some even more film on him, even more than I had already watched on him. Now, I will say, don't buy into some of the clips you see on Instagram, Twitter, whatever. You see the clip of him in the combine where he kind of like steps back on the back foot and kind of throws it like that, and it's one of the grossest things you've ever seen in your entire life. Now, to be fair, that's kind of the realm that I put him in, but he's not that bad. He's not that bad, but he's not good by any stretch of anything. Maybe they're looking at him. Maybe they're looking saying, okay, wait a minute, we put 20, 25 pounds on this kid. We teach him up a little bit. We get him a little more comfortable in the pocket, get his legs moving a little bit more. Maybe there's something there. Sure. But he is nothing short of a work in progress. Taking him at the 40th overall pick. And let's remember here, Saints, you had Shedeur Sanders available. You had Jalen Milroe available. And you went Tyler Shuck It's beyond me, man. If you wanted a runner, then you would have gone with Jalen Milroe. If you wanted a passer, quarterback, in the pocket guy, you would have gone Shedeur. And instead, or Will Howard, and instead you went Tyler Shuck. What if they wanted a little bit of both? Well, let's not act like Jalen Milroe can't throw, and let's not act like Shedeur can't run, and let's not act like Will Howard isn't literally the better version of Tyler Shuck. I don't know. I struggle with this pick right here. Not a big fan of it. If you can't tell, maybe they are a little smarter than me. I have to assume that they are because they did it for a reason. But to me, this was the Saints need a quarterback. Let's go get our quarterback. Wrong pick. Flat out. So anyway, not a fan of this one. But hey, Tyler Shuck, you are a New Orleans Saint sitting behind Derek Carr. And at this point, Derek Carr might not play. So Shuck versus Rattler there to battle things out. They might just give it to Shuck, man. They'll let Spencer Rattler go out there, start 1-4, 1-3, and, 4 or 5 games in, I think Tyler Shuck probably gets the look. At that point, he will not be ready to play. I think he'll do a horrific job, but good for you, kid. Pick at number 40. I do think there's something there. It's just a work in progress that me personally, I just would not have took a shot on. But that said, then you get pick number 92. We go 52 picks after the 40th pick to get to number 92. Quarterback Jalen Milroe goes to the Seahawks, the Alabama quarterback there. Obviously, what is called the runner of all the quarterbacks here in this class, the fastest of the quarterbacks in this class, and it's really not even close. Jalen Milroe, and I've compared him to this for damn near over a year now, since the last draft when we were talking about the quarterbacks coming out in 25. I said his ceiling to me is Jalen Hurts. If he can learn to throw the ball, he can be a Jalen Hurts kind of guy. He runs very much the same. To be fair, they did both, kind of go through the same coaching scheme a little bit. I do believe that Jalen Milroe is a Jalen Hurts prototype. The thing is he as good as Jalen Hurts? I'm not convinced yet. I think running-wise, yes, sure. But is he as smart of a runner? No. Is he as fast of a runner? Of course. Can he throw as well? No. He's like the B-level Jalen Hurts, which doesn't make it a bad pick at number 92. They just get Sam Darnold. They need a little bit of something back there. Sam Darnold is far from a runner. So, I see what they're doing. It's a good backup kind of quarterback. I like it overall. I just, once again, I'm not sold on this. But in my opinion, Milroe should have gone before Tyler Shuck. So I think for the Seahawks to get him at 92 when the Saints win at 40, I think it's an absolute steal from that point of view. But is Jalen Milroe going to be a starting quarterback his first year? No. If Darnold's struggling by week 8, do they put in Jalen Milroe? I don't believe so. Now, can they use Jalen Milroe as a little bit of this is the wrong comparison, obviously, but like a Taysom Hill kind of guy. They can't seem to get anything going for the first few weeks on third down. They got these third and shorts, whatever. That might be a good time to put in Jalen Milroe. You got Kenneth Walker and you got Zach Charbonnet, in my opinion, the second best running back duo in the league, arguably the number one running back duo in the league, right next to Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery from last year. Obviously, I would put the Seahawks duo right behind them. But all that said, you put those two out there, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Torrey Horton, who they just drafted at wide receiver, and Jalen Milroe, bro, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, we might have a little problem back there trying to stop that Seattle offense. So I can see what they're doing. I like the pick. I like it, in my opinion, better than the Dart pick to New York and better than the Tyler Shuck pick there to the Saints. In my opinion, that's the best move thus far for all the quarterbacks after the first overall pick. Then, and this one was an absolute shocker, you see Cleveland come on the board here. 2 picks later, they go Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. Look, guys, look. That's a bad pick. Straight up. There's no other way to cut this cake right here. I don't really care who you are, what you think, whatever. You cannot convince me that Dillon Gabriel is an NFL quarterback, bro. You can't do it. What is the number one complaint about Kyler Murray? He too short. Can't see over the line. Well, what do you think's going to happen to Dillon Gabriel, bro? This dude ain't going to see over nothing. Okay. And the worst part for him is he ain't Kyler Murray. Okay. He doesn't throw as good of a ball as Kyler Murray. He doesn't run as well as Kyler Murray. I don't get it. I don't see it. I know the second they said it, I was like, whoa, I don't like that at all. Now, you could have said heading into the draft, maybe Gabriel was a late third round, fourth round kind of guy. But at that point, you were thinking, okay, well, let's just say Shedeur Sanders is not available at that point. Well, folks, he was. And they chose to go Dillon freaking Gabriel, the 5'11 quarterback. I don't see it. The only upside I'm going to give Dillon Gabriel, because I don't want to just absolutely shit on the kid, but the one thing I'll give him is his arm release is pretty damn good. It's very quick. It's quick twitch. It's relatively up high, good positioned. I like his release of the football. But outside of that, I don't get this pick, man. It's not a good pick overall. I think the Browns made a major mistake, and they proved that, by the way. Once again, I want to remind you, pick number 94 was Dillon Gabriel. Well, then, not too long later, all of a sudden, who comes back on the board? The Cleveland Browns. Pick number 144 in the 5th round. They choose to do what? They go quarterback again. Wait a minute. What? Why would you go quarterback again? You just went Dillon Gabriel there in the 3rd round, and then you go Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round with the 144 pick. You want to know what happened, yo? They couldn't figure out why everybody was passing on Shedeur Sanders. That's what they couldn't figure out. They were like, what? They know they needed a quarterback. You know, they wanted to go Shedeur Sanders in the 3rd round with pick number 94, and they chose to go Dillon Gabriel. Well, then the 3rd round ended on Friday night, and they said, in their room afterward, what the fuck did we just do? Did we just take Dillon Gabriel? Yeah, why'd we do that? I don't know. Why do you think we did that? You said we needed a quarterback. Well, why don't we go Shedeur Sanders? I don't know. Okay, well, we'll get him tomorrow. Does anybody else think it went any different than that for the most part? Because you can't explain to me why you would go Dillon Gabriel and then Shedeur Sanders. I don't give a damn who you are. I don't give a damn if you're a Shedeur Sanders hater. There's a lot of them out there, as we saw from the weekend. Everybody's celebrating this guy's demise and him falling down the boards and all this bullshit. Y'all are soft, bro. I'm tired of people. I'm tired of all the trolls, all the people who know nothing about football, who watch a few games a year and think they're the smartest dude ever because one year in 2014, they won fantasy fucking football. Y'all don't know football, bro. Shedeur Sanders, hear me out and hear me clearly. Shedeur Sanders is a better quarterback than every single quarterback in this draft outside of Cam Ward. Me personally, I like Shedeur Sanders better than I like Cam Ward, but I understand the argument of why that would not be. Fine, but I watched a lot of both quarterbacks. Me personally, I think Shedeur Sanders, if he was the starter for the Titans and Cam Ward was the starter for the Titans, and we got to run this thing twice, I guarantee you Shedeur Sanders would have a better rookie year than Cam Ward. But I won't even go that far because I don't even need it to prove my point here. My point is no other quarterback should have gone before Shedeur Sanders, and definitely shouldn't have been Tyler Shuck and Dillon Gabriel. Whatever in the world that is, I don't know. You can argue Jalen Milroe. It depends on the team. It depends if they want a pure runner. But if they don't want a guy who knows how to throw the football, fine. But if you want an all-around quarterback, predominantly a pocket passer who throws arguably the most accurate ball in the country, you would have gone with Shedeur Sanders. So I don't like it. I don't agree with it. But eventually, the Browns back-to-back quarterbacks, Dillon Gabriel at 94, Shedeur Sanders at 144. So then There you go. Shedeur Sanders is finally on a team. He's on a Browns team that now has 5 quarterbacks. What are they going to do? They only could really leave camp with 4 quarterbacks. Someone's got to get cut. Probably going to be Kenny Pickett. If it's not Kenny Pickett, in my opinion, they shouldn't have Dylan Gabriel on their team, but I guess we're going to see what happens. All I can tell you is go look at the 5 quarterbacks on the roster right now. Number 2 right here, he's the best quarterback on the roster. You can like it, you cannot like it. Sometimes the truth hurts. What can I tell you? Then Kyle McCord, 181 to the Eagles, the guy out of Syracuse. I am a Kyle McCord guy. I like him. Actually, I put him in the realm, honestly, of Jackson Dart. I think that he maybe, you could argue, didn't play quite the competition that Jackson Dart played. I also could argue he didn't have the line that Jackson Dart had. But I think Kyle McCord at 181 to the Eagles is a really, really good pick. It's a little bit different of a quarterback than what they have right now, obviously, in Jalen Hurts. It's the kind of guy that if he peaks and hits that top-level quarterback, he can be a successful player in the NFL. It's good insurance for Jalen Hurts. I think if Jalen Hurts, let's say, goes down in week 4, can Kyle McCord take this team to the playoffs? I don't know if they go on a deep run, but I do believe he can get them to the playoffs. He is a good enough quarterback in order to do that. So, my opinion, a good pick there, Kyle McCord from the Eagles. The problem with the Kyle McCord pick, is the fact that they missed a quarterback. That's right, I said it, missed a quarterback. They took him over Will Howard, the national champion out of Ohio State, who was then taken by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shout out to my Steelers. I absolutely love this pick. They got Will Howard at 185 in the draft out of Ohio State. This kid right here has all the makings of a young Ben Roethlisberger. And also, I wasn't the biggest Will Howard guy when he was at Kansas State. But when he went to Ohio State, watching what he went through, watching the way that he went into Oregon, and I know he slid and there was no seconds left on the clock and it was a bad thing and he put his hands on his head. Oh, no. But you know what? What the kid then did after that scenario, which, by the way, it was still a great play. He did exactly what he had to do. He was 1 second late. Shit happens. But for him to take that adversity, then go on to win, then go on to go ahead and punch a ticket, and then go into the national championship, and then to win again, what can you say about the kid? Also, some of those balls that he threw in the semifinal, absolutely flawless. This kid got better literally by the week throughout the season. I think he has a lot of promise here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also, pretty local Pennsylvania kid. It's a great pick for Will Howard here to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They get their guy, him and Mason Rudolph. You can learn behind Rudolph a little bit. And then when it's time to go, I think Will Howard will be the guy. In my opinion, he could be ready to start by about week 6-ish. Will they need it? I don't know. I still think Mason Rudolph is a better quarterback than people give him credit for. But ideally, you know that they'd probably want to go Will Howard eventually in the season, just not in the first few weeks, I wouldn't think. Also, Aaron Rodgers. Truly, it's actually a good thing for Will Howard if they get Aaron Rodgers, because learning behind a guy like Aaron would be absolutely phenomenal for his growth. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but a steal from the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. On my board, I had Will Howard as the 4th best quarterback on the board. So, I think it's a great pick here. I really like him. I think getting him at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th quarterback off the board, that's an absolute steal from Pittsburgh. Good for them at 185. Also, the Steelers found a way to navigate getting all the pieces they needed and then still getting a great quarterback. So awesome pick there. 4 picks later, though, I'm not a fan of this pick right here. You got Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame at 189 to the Colts. Not surprised at all. The Colts had countless opportunities at Shedeur Sanders. They had countless opportunities at Will Howard. They kind of lose it. You get Kyle McCord at 181. You get Will Howard at 185. The Colts are on the board going, shit, we're running out of room here. And they go quarterback I'm not a Riley Leonard guy. I don't get that pick. I'm also not a Quinn Ewers guy, but Quinn Ewers is still on the board at that point. In my opinion, of the two quarterbacks, I probably would have gone Quinn Ewers, and that's only because I think Quinn Ewers is more quarterback-like in the NFL than Riley Leonard is. I think Riley Leonard is very much a college quarterback, but hey, it is what it is. Good for them. Riley Leonard at 189. Do I think he'll do anything great with the Colts? Not at all, but I'm happy for the kid. Graham Mertz at 197 to the Texans out of Florida. That's an interesting pick there. Once again, you got a few other good quarterbacks on the board in Curtis Rourke and Quinn Ewers, but you choose to go Graham Mertz at 197. It's a good backup for C.J. Stroud. Not a lot there. I think that was kind of just let's bring one more guy into camp, see if he can go ahead and, get himself a nice backup spot there, a little third string spot, learn a little bit behind C.J. You never know what's going to happen there. So it's a good backup option out of Florida, but not a big Mertz guy. Cam Miller out of North Dakota State University. Really nice pick here to the Raiders at 215. I thought the Raiders were going to do more of a higher end quarterback in this draft, but look, man, there is a true loyalty between Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, and they are sticking to it. It sure felt like they were going to bring in one of those big five guys on the board, kind of sit there and say, all right, Geno, it's your show, bro. But guys, look what happens now. If Geno comes out not playing very well, Cam Miller ain't going to be ready to play quarterback in the NFL 4 weeks in, 6 weeks in, 8 weeks in. I don't think he's going to be ready yet. So that's an interesting pick for me. I get it. They wanted to bring in the other pieces, kind of like Pittsburgh did. I just think for only being a few picks later, I would much rather have Will Howard over Cam Miller, in my opinion. Miller is a great, scrappy, I don't want to compare it to Johnny Manziel because that's the wrong comparison, but it's kind of like that in the sense of smaller dude, quick feet, not afraid to run, sees the field pretty well, can make some things happen, but is he an NFL quarterback? I don't know. We're only going to see there with Cam Miller, but it's a better pick than Graham Mertz, in my opinion, and it's better for being 30 picks later. It's better than Riley Leonard too, but Curtis Rourke then goes at 227 to the San Francisco 49ers, the kid out of Indiana. Obviously, a pretty nice season there for those Indiana guys till the very end of the year. They got what they wanted out of Curtis Rourke, and I think Rourke here couldn't really expect to be much higher than 227, but I still think he's better than the two or three guys that went before him. If anything, Cam Miller is the only one better than him of those, two other guys in front of him. But I think Rourke at 227 to the 49ers, nice backup there for Brock Purdy. We've seen all the rumors. The 49ers don't really feel great about paying Brock Purdy too much money. Will he be upset and want to leave? Will he eventually get injured at this point? We saw a little bit of an injury with him about a year ago. You never know. It's good to have a backup. I think Curtis Rourke is a good 227 in the draft. That's a pretty good backup option, if you ask me, out of Indiana. Final pick on the board there, Quinn Ewers, the last quarterback to go, 7th round, pick number 231, actually gets one of the better scenarios. The Miami Dolphins get Texas's Quinn Ewers. I know it's a tough one for Quinn Ewers. We've seen it. Guy got offered $8 million to stay for NIL in his final year of college, chose to let it go. Now he's going to make $800K. Pretty tough there. Go ahead and divide the number by 10, young man, and that's what you're going to get. Here's the difference, though. Quinn Ewers is backing up Tua Tagovailoa, and Tua is one bad hit away. I ain't got to even tell you, from being done playing football. You never know. Also, Quinn's going to Miami, brother. That's a nice place to go play football. They say the backup quarterback is the greatest job in sports. It is. And he's going to be doing it out there in Miami. Also knowing, hey, I better stay ready because you never know what's going to happen with Tua. I think he got a really good scenario there. But all of that said, I'm going to say the quarterback teams that won this draft, I'm going to say Cam's a good pick. Jackson's Dart's a good pick. Shedeur is a good pick. They just screwed up by taking two quarterbacks. Milroe to the Seahawks is a good pick. McCord to the Eagles, okay. Will Howard to the Steelers, a great pick. Cam Miller to the Raiders, a good pick. Rourke to the 49ers, and Ewers to the Dolphins. I would say those are the better picks of the quarterbacks there, but not too many that I love, honestly. But overall, guys, finally, whatever happened with Shedeur Sanders this weekend, it was an absolute disgusting thing that we were watching on TV. 5th round is an absolute joke. I've already told you I think this guy is the best quarterback in this entire class. You physically cannot debate me that he's not a top 3. So even if you want to put 2 quarterbacks in front of him, you can't tell me he's not number 3. So for him to go this far down the board was an absolute joke. But it's sad. It was disrespectful. It is what it is. Shedeur, of all people, handled it like a champion, handled the prank call like a champion, handled the social media like a champion, and everybody talks about how bad this kid's character is. He's a fucking dog. I love him. He's loyal. He's confident. He does everything you want a quarterback to do. Y'all are offended because he goes like this. Y'all are offended because he's a Sanders. Y'all are offended because he got a bigger chain than you got. You offended because he talks a little bit of shit. Come on, dog. Like, it's so soft. You can tell who played football. You can tell who didn't play football. Everybody who's all butthurt about how this guy is. Look, I ain't going to say the first thing you are if you're upset, but I'll go ahead and say the second thing is you just didn't play. Straight up. Because if you did play, you would know that you got to respect that at the end of the day. If the dude's teammates got his back, I got his back too. I like Shedeur Sanders. I got nothing bad to say about him. But anyway, I could go off about Shedeur Sanders. I ain't going to do it. We don't got time for it. But we'll talk about it more on the Tuesday show. Going to have a co-host with me on that show, and we'll do a full debate of the Shedeur Sanders thing, as well as a few other big-time moves, big-time picks there in the draft. We'll talk about that later on. But sportsforummedia.com, guys. Make sure to go ahead and check that out at sportsforumco on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, and the Sports Forum there on YouTube. Click that subscribe button. We appreciate you guys. I'm Riggs Tamburo. Happy Monday to everybody. The NFL draft was fun. Soon enough, we're going to be doing our fantasy drafts as well. Can't wait for that one. Make sure to enter the Sports Forums League this year as well. We'll have information as that gets closer. But anyway, guys, I got to get up out of here. Once again, happy Monday to y'all. This is The Buzz with Riggs Tamburo on the Sports Forum. Take care.